welcome to Come Home. I'm Jen Mallan. What a joy and privilege it is to be in your home today, on your device, in your living room, in your jail cell, your hospital room, wherever you may be. The beautiful thing about the Spirit of God is that He is not bound by logistics. He can visit you right where you are. He can meet you right where you are. And the anointing is tangible. And I just pray today that through this program that you will feel God's peace, God's presence, that hope will come to you, that healing will come to you, and that you will realize that you are destined and created for purpose. God has an assignment for you. And you know what? One of the number one ways that you know that you're right in the middle of God is when you're under attack. When you have fiery darts coming against you, don't run from the battle, run to the battle. Because listen, that's why in the armor of God, we have the shield of faith. And the shield of faith is designed to quench every fiery dart of the enemy. And so listen, God will fight your battle for you. He's in the battle with you. He's for you. He will never leave you or forsake you. And this is a time of war. We are warring and battling in the spirit realm. We are warring and battling for our faith. We are warring and battling for our children, the next generation. We are warring and battling for morals and standards, and sometimes just plain common sense. So listen, you are going to love who is on the program with me today. I affectionately refer to her as my baby cousin, although there's nothing baby about her. She is a powerful woman. She is a modern day Esther. She is being used mightily in the state of Florida and beyond. She is living Isaiah 62, and she is speaking out, and she is being a voice for the voiceless. She is campaigning tirelessly and changing the law concerning human trafficking, concerning big pharma, and so many other things that I bring to you on a daily basis on this show. We're going to get to hear from her mama bear heart and from her wife heart and just her being a woman of God. And her name is Attorney General Ashley Moody. And so before we go to the living room, let's quickly go to this life hack all about Hineni, which means, here I am, use me, here I am, send me.
I'm wearing a ring on my finger today. It's a special ring that my son Jonathan gave me, and on the ring is a Hebrew word. It's one of my most favorite words. The word is Hineni. Hineni. In Hebrew, the word Hineni means here am I. And you can see it throughout Scripture. Abraham said Hineni to God. Moses said Hineni to God. Isaiah said Hineni to God. Here am I. And the most incredible part of this word is you say, here am I to the Lord without knowing what it is that He's going to require of you next. When God called to Abraham, He said, Abraham, Abraham. Abraham said, Hineni, here am I, Lord. And then the Lord tells him to do something that seems impossible. Go offer your son on the altar as a sacrifice to me. But in Genesis 22, God came through because He provided for Himself the offering. It's amazing. When we say Hineni to God, we're saying, Lord, here am I. Whatever you say to me, I will do. And when we have that disposition before God, He always comes through for you. And as you're watching today, I want to encourage you with something really important. In Isaiah 58, God says Hineni to us. It talks about fasting. It talks about getting our hearts right before the Lord. And then the word in Isaiah 58 says, you will cry and God will say, here am I. I think that the Lord is looking for the people today who will say, Lord, here am I, Hineni. Ask anything of me and I will do it for you. And the Lord in turn is desiring to say Hineni to you. whatever your impossible situation is, whatever trial you're going through, I want to encourage you today. Say, Lord, here am I. Whatever you say to me, I will do. And I want to encourage you that the Lord is listening and he's looking for hearts that are after him so that he can say, Hineni, back to you. The eyes of the Lord roam to and fro throughout the earth so that he might strongly support those whose hearts are after him. Cry out to God, listen for his voice, and watch him come through for you in a glorious way today.
Well, today I'm so touched and humbled and honored and excited because I get to introduce you to someone that I have loved pretty much my entire life, or at least since I was five and a half, when I was just mesmerized and got to hold her in my arms and play together and just see her grow and become and blossom, and then follow in the family footsteps and have a legal career and break records and champion causes and use her voice and her life for the Lord, but in public office. And so I get to introduce you to Attorney General or top cop, whatever you want to call it, Ashley Moody. I'm so happy you're here.
It's so good to finally do this.
I
I know we've been talking about this since you took over hosting the show, and I'm glad that it's finally happened. Although someone very wise said to me right before this show started, God's timing is always right. Seems like I should have been here sooner, but maybe it's the perfect time.
Well,
so it's great to be with you.
I think it's a perfect time because I think now more than ever, we are in a year that's a big year. It's an election year. And it just seems like there's all kinds of things that pop up. And I also think it's such a strategic time for you because you have you've become established as the Attorney General. And now you're really in the heat of the battle. And
yeah, I've been in office now a little over 5 years as the Attorney General of Florida. And during those 5 years, as you well know, as the country knows, Florida has really been at the forefront on leading on so many issues that are important to Americans, to the strength of this country. Yeah. We've done so many things in Florida that really have been forging the path that many states have followed. Some states have not followed, and they are, suffering as a result. But it is an election year. But I always like to remind people that though we might talk about some of these important issues and we put focus on these important issues during this year, really it's a daily grind and a daily fight, and having a faith I'm so blessed that I was raised in a family that values faith and remembering that God has a plan for you, and that while you may not understand it, you may not see it, you may feel untethered at times, if you always go back to that tether, these jobs in public service, or any job for that matter, because we all use our talents in different ways to serve, becomes easier when you know you're not in the fight alone.
That's right. Well, we often on this show, I talk about our Mimi.
I don't think you're allowed to cry. Isn't that the first rule of hosting?
No.
You're not allowed to cry.
No, we're human, we're women, we have tears, but I talk about her so often, and I think you and I had the privilege of sitting at her feet because she was a teacher, and we were both the firstborn in our families. And so I think we had such an advantage that she poured so much into us, and she was the matriarch of faith in our family. And even at her funeral, you spoke and I spoke, and I heard her in you, and there's press conferences I see and I hear her and in you, and I think her faith really gave us exactly what we needed, that we were born into the right family at the right time to have her as a teacher, and then we had her so long, 99 and a half. What a blessing.
And I think as young people, and hopefully, Jen, I know you coming onto this show, I have no doubt that you have people watching the show faithfully for all that you bring to it. It's so moving. And I want all of your viewers to know that When she speaks, it is from the heart, and it is, she's not looking at any sort of teleprompter, which I think your viewership should know that, because it is miraculous that you have the ability to remind people of important lessons that we have all learned along the way. We all know. Yeah. We often forget so quickly when we're in times of challenge or tribulation. And you have this amazing way of emotionally connecting with people and reminding them of that. I have no doubt that that is seeded and probably formed from our amazing grandmother. Yeah. And the model that she set. I know even as young women, many times, she would, in notes or inside comments or in blessings at the table, just throw in little lessons that you know were meant for one of us,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I always love going back and reading the letters and reading something that she was, trying to remind us of a lesson in life or of a teaching of God. And I have no doubt that was part of it, that has become part of who we are, part of how we try to reflect those teachings and how we engage with others now. I'm watching it with you and this show. It's amazing. And I appreciate you saying that, because I do feel that not only does my faith play such a strong role in my life, but those that lived out their faiths in my own family and many of my close friends plays a large part in who I am and my leadership. So one thing that Mimi, our grandmother, used to say was, pick a pew, sit up front. And while that was more about logistics and when you go to church, pick a pew, sit up front. I hear that every time I walk into church, actually. I think that same could be true and is emblematic of when you're trying to convey the importance of something you're working on, why it's important to families, why it's important to the strength of us living together under an ordered society. Be grounded in principle, say what is right, say what needs to be done, and stay up front about it.
Yes.
Don't wither into the background. That's right. Don't let others dominate the narrative incorrectly, which is happening so much these days. Yeah. You have to be sometimes repetitive, but always grounded in the principle of it. And I think that is one of the reasons why Florida is really outshining so many other states in policy right now, is because we always go back, and we're so lucky to have great leaders here. Governor DeSantis has been great. And always going back to that tethered principle. Yeah. It can be chaotic. You can feel like you're flying around in the wind sometimes. You go back to that, and it really does keep you grounded on message and why a certain policy decision is important for the state. Governing by the people for the people looks messy sometimes.
It does.
But there's purpose in it. We as a country and as a state have shown that we can live as a free people governing ourselves, and you have to have leaders out there that are grounded to do it.
That's right. And that stick to their plumb line, which is their family, their morals, their principles, their faith, because you can so easily be swayed.
And so much of that is true for young people, and why I go back to, I'm hopeful that you have an audience of different backgrounds and ages, and we need more young people to learn about faith and how they can be of service using their faith, and how that can actually prepare them in so many ways for the challenges and the attacks, and so much that comes along with public service is not always fun.
No.
I would love sometimes to take the part of my job that is challenging, because no matter what you do, no matter what you say, there's always criticism. I would love to segregate that, but what that does do is it hones down on who you are as a person. It fortifies you. It gives you strength. It makes you better at your job. Yeah. I wish so many of our young people right now in this day and age understood that when you are experiencing challenges, when you do feel like you can't get a hold of this life. It's just honing you into the person you're going to become and making you stronger, and standing by your faith in that moment, and being a person that you know that the Lord would want you to be and live up to, and see that plan is so very important.
Yeah.
And my job, like life, is the same thing.
It's true. It's true. And I think God has put you there. I know he has, but especially now, like Esther, for such a time as this, because you were the youngest judge to be elected in the state of Florida, right?
I think at the time I was the youngest judge in Florida.
You were.
Yes, I did not know that until a newspaper told me. But
well, I knew it because I read the newspaper. I was so proud. But so we talked about, our Mimi, but you also have inherited so much from Big Daddy, our grandfather, as far as the legal side and able to judge and draw conclusions quickly. And of course, that went to your father, to you, your brother, et cetera, et cetera. I always say I cut my teeth on law books. They were just all over the house. But you took that mantle and you've run with it, which again shows the power of generational blessings. It shows the power of us speaking now and saying, young people, come on. It shows the power of those listening to pray for their kids and their grandchildren. Every prayer is effectual and powerful and purposeful, even if their children aren't living it out right now. And you also are the only cabinet member that has a school-age child.
Well, that's not true. I am the first mom with a school-age child at home.
But there's
been plenty of cabinet members that have had children. But yes, when I started running, it was interesting. I had moved from being a business lawyer to a federal prosecutor, and then I was on the bench for about a decade as a judge, a little over a decade. And when we decided to run, my husband, as you know, is a career law enforcement officer, and it was a big decision for us. But the biggest decision was, do we embark upon a journey of seeking out to become the top law enforcement officer in the state of Florida at the same time as I had when I started running the first time for Attorney General? I had a 7-year-old at home. And Florida is a gigantic state.
It is.
I think, we're the third largest state, and getting from one point to the other is a logistical nightmare. Yeah. Even to this day, governing as Attorney General, getting from one point to the other.
Pensacola to Miami is like Texas.
And that was my biggest concern, because I love all that I've been able to accomplish. But my heart, my mission is to, raise this family and to be there as a mother and not compromise that in any way. And my husband and I talked long and hard about it, and we felt like we could do that. And if I didn't, obviously I would have never embarked upon this. But when we were running, I learned that, there had not been a mom of a young school-age child, certainly that young, that had tried to do everything. So I have figured out tricks. I have a great list of tricks to manage that. And we've my son the youngest boy has grown up with mom doing this, and I think he would tell you I'm around too much.
Yeah. And
it really is just making sure that you are there for your family.
Yeah.
I tell my husband all the time, he says, your also number one job is wife. I said, you are absolutely right.
Yes.
And if I am not being number one mom and number one wife, you need to let me know, because I think that this challenge of managing everything at one time, well, I thought that would be something that weighed me down in my ability to be effective. It has been such a blessing in terms of timing. And we started off this show in terms of God's perfect timing. And I always go back to that. It was really hard. And did I have to, travel, do double miles just so I was back by baseball game or by practice, or to take to school, or to be there at the end of school? Yes. And was that harder? Yes. Yeah. But when issues have come up, whether that's trafficking our children, whether that's social media, exposing them to things that they should never be exposed to at a vulnerable age, whether that's adults trying to get to our children, whether that's poison peddlers and traffickers trying to market fake pills that contain lethal doses of fentanyl to our children. I mean, the issues that I see on a daily basis, I am so driven because I'm seeing them come to me in a way that is unique because I am dealing with them every day. I'm in it. I'm unpacking the backpack. I'm talking to other moms about what's happened to their kids. You know, it's, while it has been a challenge, and I would say any mother would tell you, you know, working full time and raising a family in the way that you want to and you believe that families need, that is a challenge. But in so many ways, I embrace it because we have led this nation. I mean, I have been fighting in not only the legislative process, but in court battles on behalf of our children. And I know, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'm doing this at this moment in time for a reason.
That's right. It's a generational assignment because there has to be someone that is sensitive to these issues. And not that men aren't, because we love our men, and not that people that have children out of school aren't. But, you know, things change quick in a young person's life. And so there are challenges that they face with each new grade that require prayer, require exposure, require sensitivity. And you are keeping other moms awake, and then you are fighting for our kids to not be completely consumed by an obvious agenda, a pre-planned agenda.
Well, you know, thankfully, so many of those that are in leadership in Florida are parents. And, you know, men, women, we are a collection of families throughout the state that want the best for our next generation. One of the biggest challenges we're all facing right now is, you know, in my generation, your generation, did we have even dial-up?
No,
right?
No, we didn't have computers or cell phones, or we had beepers.
I still
in high
remember
school.
the dial, like, you know, where the phone's connecting and the static, you know. And now we have children who will never know not having a phone in their hands at ready availability, and all of the things that are being pushed to them on a continual basis. You know, we were talking a little bit before we came out here, and I think one of the best things you can do as a parent, whether you're a government in government paying attention to every minute detail of policy, or whether you're just a parent dealing with the challenges of getting your kids' attention away from a screen, is to read on technology and the affect on children. And in my own church, they recommended a book for families to kind of disconnect from technology for a set period, you know, once a week, a certain period a day, you know, a certain period a year. I think, and that's just one recommendation, but we are going to see the affects in our children of technology, and we're responsible.
That's right.
Right now, there's no, it's kind of like the wild, wild west. Technology has exploded, and we're all just trying to figure out its affects and apply the best policy as we can, as issues come forward, as investigations are held, as studies are done. But as parents right now, we can't wait for that.
No.
Every single decision we're making as it relates to technology, the next day can present another challenge. I can tell you my son's friends already, and younger, there are three ways I think technology are presenting problems. Number one, adults are getting to children like they've never been able to get to them.
That's right.
We used to be able to lock our door, you know, close up for the night. Our kids are safe. Okay, no longer. Technology allows people they don't know to get to them
access
24 hours a day. And I could give you a list of ways that's dangerous. The subject matter they're able to get their hands on. To some extent, we're always talking about issues and what materials children should have access to, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, they go and they have a phone or a tablet. They can get ready access to materials we would never even imagine. And then just the overwhelming affects of consistently being online, consistently being drawn back onto line, the pressures of of being perfect and living up to certain standards and being barraged with negativity. All of those are challenges that we are going to have to face with children and grandchildren.
Yes.
I like to remind
Yes,
you.
I love it.
She's a beautiful grandmother.
Your day's coming.
Children and grandchildren.
Yes.
But it's so important.
It
And
is.
as members of the faith community, we need to have these discussions and be honest about it. And it is one of our greatest challenges right now.
And that's the beauty of being in the faith community, is you do have the precious Holy Spirit that nudges you or tells you or gives you discernment. Go check on your son, ask him some powerful questions. We do have that, but we have got to be diligent. What's the name of that book? Because I know I'll get
The Tech Wise Family.
The Tech Wise Family. I encourage everyone to get that book. I also just want to, before we get to the end here, one of the number one things I'm asking you to do as the host of Come Home is to pray for Attorney General Ashley Moody, because she is on the front lines. She is pioneering things and she is standing for things, and there is a backlash and it can be exhausting. And the Lord tells us in the Word in Romans to pray for those that are in public office, to pray for those who are in authority, that it is an assignment from God. It's from heaven. And so if you want to know more about Ashley Moody, super easy, go to ashleymoody.com. If you want to know more about the policies that she is championing and fighting for, it is myfloridalegal.com, right?
You have a great memory.
myfloridalegal.com. So those are two ways that you can be in touch with her. She has promised that she's going to come back more often, and we're going to talk just about woman things, about being a wife and being a mother and being a sibling and functioning, because there's so much more to her than just what she does in office. But Ashley, is there anything you want to say at the very end here?
No, I mean, I'm always, as you can imagine, I'm always getting asked by young people how they get involved, how they become leaders in this state. I think it's important to start demonstrating that ability to stand up and not just on principle, but on behalf of others.
That's
and
right.
showing that you care about people and those that may be more vulnerable than you are. You know, stand up for them, stand up for those issues, and start at a young age. Pick a pew, sit up front.
Amen.
I mean, that'll set you off for a really great
Absolutely.
path in life of being there and living a life in service.
It's a perfect way to end. Thank you all for watching. I'm Jen Mallan, and I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, come home.